So this is my list of the best games from the 1990s. This is my personal favorites, so I know a lot of people won't agree with me, and that's fine. But just try to enjoy the list and maybe see some games you might have missed out on. Gran Turismo 2. This game is a love-hate relationship. I was always fascinated with cars and loved everything about them. I never perceived them as an appliance, but rather art, as corny as that sounds. That being said, one of my go-tos was Need for Speed Hot Pursuit. After I played that game to death, I was told about the Gran Turismo series. I picked up Gran Turismo and shortly after Gran Turismo 2. The sheer amount of cars in the game was enough to make me interested. Once I started playing it though, I realized I couldn't ram walls, cops, or enter cheat codes like the El Nino, which I thought was a real car for an embarrassing amount of time. Having to take license tests in slow, sad cars was quite the wake-up call, but shortly after I came to appreciate the precision and reward of taking the race line and proper braking. Later down the road when I bought a PS2, you literally couldn't keep me off of GT4. The next game on the list is Syphon Filter. It was released in '99, and you play as a special agent to stop a terrorist. I know, pretty creative. This game was as fun to watch as it was to play though. The settings were refreshing, and the opening scene is the only reason I knew what Kazakhstan was. It took me more tries than I could admit to kill the final boss, Eric Romer. Spoiler, you shoot his backpack for all those who picked up the PlayStation Classic. Thankfully, my older brother was much better at this game, so I got to watch playthroughs of the game well before YouTube or Let's Plays were a thing. And a side note, I thought the second one was great as well.
Leon, is there a...
Next up on the list at 8 is Ape Escape. I consider Ape Escape to be by far one of the best platformers released on the PlayStation. Basically, you play as a kid named Spike and have the task of catching super smart monkeys that are a product of a villain monkey named Spectre, who is also the final boss. I suppose it sounds a bit silly when you put it that way, but the plot was really entertaining. It was somewhat revolutionary as it was the first PlayStation game to require a DualShock controller. This sucked at the time because I had the non-analog controllers and couldn't play it for a while after receiving it as a gift. As a kid, this game was very difficult, but it was super rewarding, and it was the first game to really make me want to switch from the D-pad to the analog sticks for movement. At number 7, I have Twisted Metal 2. While it's not the first of the series, this game holds a special place in my heart, as it was one of the first games I bought for the PlayStation. I think the first one was Descent. Hours were spent playing this game with friends, and the story mode was pretty decent as well. So many different endings, the characters for every mood, and great levels to destroy. Still remember the first time blowing up the Eiffel Tower in Paris and finding a way into the museum. To this day, I still believe it's the best of the series. At number 6, I have Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. I may have been a bit too harsh on where this game sits on the list, because I loved skating as a kid, and this was by far the closest thing you could get to it, besides the fact you couldn't manual. Past skating game attempts were lackluster, and this was the first to really capture what it was like. Had all my favorite skaters in it, like Andrew Reynolds, had actual skate videos, dope music, and it was just too fun. This was a great time killer between school and rainy days when I couldn't get outside and actually skate. This game set the standard for the genre all the way up until Skate came out, and although I will say I did enjoy Grind Session. At number 5, I have Mario Party 2. It might be easy to tell that the PlayStation was the go-to console of my choice, but I did have the N64 as well. Mario Party 2 was the first game in the series I had played, and technically it was released in January of 2000, but I'm including it anyway as it was released in Japan in '99. So it's so different than a traditional Mario game in some ways, but it almost does it better. The mini games were simple but never got old. The desire to get as many stars as possible starts the second the game starts. It always felt great rubbing in your friend's face when you come up on top, even if it was just because of the bonus stars. I'm surprised to receive mixed reviews from game magazines, but then again, who cares? The formula works, and still works, with the latest iteration being released on the Switch. At number 4, I've got Spyro the Dragon. So Spyro was by far my top 3 of the PlayStation. This game was my Super Mario 64, Ocarina of Time, or whatever other platformers everyone couldn't stop talking about. Who would have thought being a little purple dragon, rescuing dragons, could be so fun? It had everything from open homeworlds, multiple bosses, gem collecting, even flying levels. The game was constantly testing with puzzles and secret spots. I'm not really sure how I was even able to 120% this game as a kid, because there wasn't the ability to just Google the level and follow it step by step. You had to actually figure it out. I still play this game from time to time, and with Spyro Reignited out, I really hope people give this game a chance. Alright, getting into the top 3. Number 3, Super Smash Bros. The second N64 game on this list, and for good reason. I don't think there's any other N64 game that has aged as well as Smash Bros. And continues to be as fun as it is. There's been so many iterations of the game, but you can't beat the original, in my opinion. I remember pulling all-nighters, playing with friends, high on Coca-Cola, and then doing the same exact thing well into my 20s, except switching out the soda for beer. There was always that one friend who was cheap as hell in the game, and always one who got super triggered. I was one or the other at times, and I'm sure you can relate as well. What else is there to really say about it? I'm not sure, but it is one of the 2 N64 games I still play on a regular basis, with the other one being Mario Party 2. At number 2, I've got the Half-Life mod, Counter-Strike. First off, I have to say I can't thank my brother enough for introducing me to this game. This has been a game I've literally played every day since I first played it, and it was hard not to put this at the very top. Countless hours on this game, starting on a 56K connection and a pissed off mom that could never use the phone without yelling at me to get off the internet. It began as a mod for Half-Life and took off from there. Personally, it ruined any other first-person shooters for me because I would always end up comparing them to it. Counter-Strike gets a lot of hate by people saying it's too arcadey or whatever, but when you actually get into it, you realize that one shot is all you need most of the time. So many dynamics of the game, so much teamwork, and there's always more to learn to become better at the game. There's been several iterations of the game since the initial release, and all provide essentially the same experience, which is amazing. Except maybe the console ports they tried to do. They were pretty terrible. And at number 1, Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow. I received a Game Boy and Pokemon Blue for Christmas one year, and from then on, Pokemon was the only game I played on. This was by far my favorite game of my childhood, despite essentially being a black and white game with terrible graphics. I would play this on the bus, in the car on road trips, using street lights as they passed by so I could actually see the screen. Anytime I had AA batteries with the charge, you'd probably see me playing it. It's a perfect blend of grinding, fighting, collecting, and the series continues to do that with each new release. It wasn't too complicated, there wasn't any cell phones or berries or whatever other complications they brought into the series to make it better, which I really enjoy. Every playthrough is a chance to beat the game with a different strategy and a different Pokemon. The replayability of this game is right up there with Counter-Strike in my opinion, which is impressive considering it's a single-player Game Boy game from 1996. Just browsing YouTube, you can see the fascination with it still, and I must admit, I watch full speedruns on GDQ every time it's scheduled. For those who have only played the newer versions, consider giving this one a go. You may enjoy the simplicity.
Alpha 3!
At your service.
Good job. Take me to the cable car. Careful!